Hi everyone, welcome to Lisa's Stamp Studio and tonight's YouTube Live. If this is your first time visiting, I am so glad that you're here with me. And if you are returning, welcome back. In just a second, you'll see Megan's name coming up here in blue if you are here during the live stream. Megan is my YouTube virtual assistant, and she's here to help moderate comments and answer your questions because when my head's turned down to the stamp table, I'm super busy stamping and I miss most of them, so I apologize for that. Megan is awesome. Ask away, interact with each other. It's so much fun to see what you have to say. Leave me comments. I come back and read every single one when the event is over. Now, a couple things. If you want to chat during the live event, you'll need to make sure that you're signed into your YouTube channel. You'll need your Gmail address in order to do that. That's the way you're going to be able to chat. Let's get started. How about if we flip you down to the table and get the camera focused in? Here we go. All right, give me just 1 second to get you all set up and zoomed in so you can see. I've got a little fancy light here I like to turn on so I can make sure that I can see everything well. And I've got my iPad here next to me so I can make sure I can see your comments as well. All right, just want to make sure that I get that going, and it looks like we're all set. All right, I am going to start with a small piece of grid paper. I want to protect my work surface since I'm going to be using the Stampin Blends tonight. And I'm using a thick piece of Whisper White cardstock. This is the cardstock of choice when you're going to be using alcohol-based markers. Really important because I find that they blend much better on this thicker paper as well as provide you with a much crisper image. So ink pad of choice is going to be a Memento ink, and that's going to be the ink pad that you're going to want to use when you're using alcohol-based markers, simply because they will not bleed when you color them in. Now, I'm going to caution you, do not use this ink pad if you're using regular dye-based markers. I'm going to pull out one so you can see what I mean. This is a dye-based marker, just a regular marker that you would be working with. Because of the dye base and the water base in this ink pad, they will cause a tendency to bleed. So you're going to want to make sure you're using this specifically if you're coloring with alcohol-based markers. Now, it's my black ink pad of choice when I'm just stamping black in general. So you'll see me using it for greetings as well. I'm going to be pulling out an image from this adorable stamp set, Happy Tales. How many dog lovers do we have out there? I can see your comments here on the iPad, so chime in. I would love to know if you're a dog lover, and if you have one, tell me what kind you've got. The great thing about this stamp set is there are pieces in here that fit inside the images of the dog. Make sure you hang with me until the end of the video. I've got some other samples to share with you that use all these other images that are in this stamp set. I've pulled out the image already. I've got it here mounted on my clear block. It is photopolymer, which means that the stamp itself is clear, which is going to make it super easy to stamp, especially if you are a new stamper, because the stamp itself will turn the color of your ink. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to open that up. And you're going to see that my ink pad and my stamp are very close in size, especially because of that tail. One of the things I like to do whenever that happens is turn the stamp face up on my work surface, and I like to grab my ink pad from the sides and ink it this way, because I'll tell you what, I have missed inking up that tail several times. So this is just a really good tip for you. Keep in mind that when the stamp is relative in size to the ink pad, that's what you're going to want to do. I'm going to stamp that here near the bottom. Lots of firm, even pressure. You want to make sure that you trace out that design, and then I'll lift. The details are in there from the stamp itself, which means that the artist rendering at Stampin' Up! Has done the work for us, which is going to make coloring so much easier. Now, there's lots of ways that you can color. You can use colored pencils, watercolor pencils. You can watercolor if you're a fan of that. You can also use markers like I just showed you, but tonight I'm going to use the Stampin' Blends. Alcohol-based markers. Now, I will tell you I have fallen in love with these for several reasons. First of all, flawless coverage. You are not going to have to worry about streaking. If you've ever used a marker before, and I'm going to give you a perfect example. I'm going to pull out that exact same color marker here. This is a dye-based marker. These are alcohol. If you use a regular marker and you color in, you're going to notice that some areas are darker and lighter if you happen to go over an area and repeat it. That is not the case with alcohol-based markers, and that is because the alcohol evaporates as the color starts to be laid, which means the color is consistent. There's no streak, no lines. I love that. Do you have to shade with them? Absolutely not. You can buy them individually. There is a light and a dark for each of the colors that we sell. They're $4.50, or you can buy them as the combination for $9. I love that we offer them individually, simply because if one dries out or you've used it more than the other, you can easily replace it without having to buy the combination. You're going to be able to find all the products in my online store at lisastampstudio.com. I'm going to do a little bit of shading tonight, just a little. And I'm going to give you some tips, and it's going to be easy to do because this is a rather large image. You're going to find that the Stampin' Blends have two tips. This one has a thicker line, this one has a thinner line. The thick line indicates the brush tip, the thinner line indicates the chisel tip. So I'm going to use the thicker tip tonight. I'm going to go off on a limb and just feel a little bit brave. I know I've got some bigger areas, so it's easier to use. And for those of you that haven't seen these before, I want to show you the chisel tip so you can get a good look at that. Great for those fine areas. This brush is a lot more flexible, so if you're covering a big area, it's easier to use on that chiseled side. So I'm going to come in, I'm going to lay some color here on my dog. One of the things I see people fretting about is, oh my gosh, I left some areas that are not completely colored in. Now, I don't know about you, but as a child, I loved to color. A new box of crayons and a brand new coloring book were my favorite things in the whole world. So I guess it's no surprise that I enjoy coloring even as an adult. It's therapeutic, and you know what? I love the results when it's all finished. Don't be afraid to leave those white areas because it lends credence to shadowing or highlights. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to close that up. I'm going to switch over now to the darker one. And again, it's chiseled, so you can choose. Just because you use the thick one on the light one doesn't mean you have to use the thick one on the dark one. So I'm just going to go ahead and show you the difference. So here's the thick brush tip. Do you see the sketches here that the artist has placed inside the image? Those are your cheat lines. Go ahead and add a little bit of dark to those areas. And you're going to see I'm just kind of dabbing it on. It's probably not going to look like too much right now because you're probably thinking, oh, that looks terrible. But wait, this is where the blends come in really, really well. In addition to that, I'm going to work a little bit outside of that, and I'm going to add a little bit color to his head. And I'm going to switch over to the chiseled side so that you can see how that end works as well. This is a little bit more of a fine area, so I want to make sure I don't lay too much color down. And I'm going to add some color here and a little bit more on his chest here. And if you want, you can even come back in here. A lot of people are concerned about where to apply color. How do I know where the highlights are? And you know what? I am no artist by any shape or form. I use those cheat lines that are in the stamp set. If you don't have them, don't fret. Pick some areas that you would like to be highlighted, to be focused on. Now, because I'm focusing on blending those darker lines, I'm going to go back to the light and I'm going to blend them in. So I'm going to go back to my chiseled side so I can control that a little bit better. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to use small circular motions. I'm looking to blend those dark lines in with the lighter areas that I've used. Now give it a couple seconds. You're going to see it start to evaporate. What happens as it evaporates, those light and dark definitions are going to start to disappear. So it's going to show more of a shading than actually dark and light, which is what we're looking for. The other great thing about the Stampin' Blends is you're able to go back over this numerous times and correct the color if you're not getting what you want. So I'm going to come back over here on the hind quarter and fill that in as well. And you're going to see too, it's starting to evaporate. And I'm going to work here on the tail. This is such a small area, I just thought, you know what, I'll go ahead and do this while we're live. I'm going to color in a little bit more, and I want you to see what I'm going to do here. I'm going to leave a little bit of shadowing here, and I'm not going to color it all. Not only is it going to look really cool, it's going to make it look more real, like fur. So do you see how I've left some areas here and here? The other great thing I love about Stampin' Blends is this. Let's just say that I colored a little bit outside the line here. There is what we call a color lifter, and I don't think this gets enough airtime, and I want to show you how it works. Not only does it lift the color, it will move the color. So I'm going to use the chiseled end just to show you what I mean. I can actually color just outside of here, and the alcohol that's inside of here is going to penetrate across this color, and you're going to see it start to lighten. So if you colored a little bit outside the line here, for example, you would want to start here, so the alcohol could seep into the image. You don't want to color right on the color line because you know what's going to happen? It's actually going to lighten the ink. So just for a point of reference, I'm going to go ahead and do that so you can kind of see. Let's say I want to lighten this up a little bit more. I'm going to squiggle a little bit of color in there. I'm going to let that process, and as it processes it, you're going to see that it's going to start to subtly lighten the color, which is going to give you more highlights. The great thing about these markers is you can't mess it up. If you're not happy, add more color. This is why the thick Whisper White cardstock is so important, because it'll be very resilient to the color. Now let me flip this over. Do you see how it's penetrated some of the paper? Had this not been a good quality thick cardstock, not only will this have seeped to your work surface, it really wouldn't have blended well because it would just be absorbed in the fibers of the paper. So buy the good thick Whisper White cardstock. You will not be sorry. All right, so our dog image is all finished, and you may think we need to use our scissors for this, but we don't have to, because this product is actually sold as a bundle, which means you can purchase the Happy Tales stamp set and the Dog Builder Punch as a bundle, and it saves you 10% on the overall purchase. Now I'm going to tell you right now that this bundle is retiring. When I say retiring, I mean that it's not going to be available at the 10% discount after June 3rd. So if you are interested in purchasing this bundle, now is the time, because they will only be available in the brand new catalog separately. So you'll have to pay full price for both. And I don't know about you, but who wants to do that, right? So I'm going to go ahead and pick this up, and I'm going to slide this down inside the punch. Do you see that heart that's next to it? There's a heart image in this stamp set that actually can be punched out here as well. And I don't know about you, but I love a heart punch because you can use that on everything. Just line it up the best you can and then give that a good squeeze. The quality of the Stampin' Up! Punches is absolutely fabulous. You don't have to worry about breaking it. Now, one of the things I want to call your attention to on the punch as I flip it over is this mechanism. I've had people ask me about this, so I want to address it. You can actually squeeze these so that they're flat, and then this slides so that you can store the punch. Look, it stands. You can actually store it in a drawer or on a shelf, and then with the image on the side, you can see what punch it is. So, fantastic punch. When you go to release it, very important, make sure it's closed, make sure you're squeezing it, and then slide it down and then carefully let go, because you don't want that to spring on you. That product, this bundle, is available in the current occasions catalog. And again, I say current because on June 3rd, this is gone. And I marked this page because I want to show this to you. Look at this. For those of you that are cat lovers, we have the 9 live stamp set, and believe it or not, there is a coordinating punch to that stamp that you are going to fall in love with, and here it is. It is the cat punch. So whether you're a dog person or a cat person, we've got you covered. So this exact same card can be used with either of those stamp sets to get that same type of motif. Now, if you don't already have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator and you're interested in receiving complimentary copies of the catalog, leave me a comment below. Now, you might be thinking, well, this is retiring. Why would I want that? Well, don't worry, because if you don't have a demonstrator, I'll make sure you get the brand new one that's coming out on June 4th. You can contact me at lisastampstudio.com, and there's a contact me button at the top, and I'll need your full name and your mailing address. I'm going back to that black ink pad now, and from that exact same stamp set, I've taken out the words that say just for you. So we got to play on words there, the F-U-R. I'm going to ink that up again. You can see how it's turned black. I'm going to do my best not to get my head in the video here. I'm at that age where I've got to stamp things a lot closer than I intended in the past. Anybody else with me? There we go. Not perfectly straight, but it's good enough, right? Okay, so we're going to cap that and put that off to the side. I want to create a banner tip. Now, you certainly can do that with your scissors, and I want to give you just a little bit of a lesson on banner tips if you don't have the punch I'm going to use. So here's a separate piece of paper, the exact same size. Banner tips are very popular in paper crafting, but if you don't have a punch, you're often wondering, how can I create it so it looks even? What you're going to do on the end of the paper is you're going to make a slit just visually in the center. Do you see it here? The deeper the slit, the deeper the banner is going to be. Then you're going to come from the outside edge to the center of that slit on both sides. And just because you've made that slit first is what's going to give you that perfect banner tip every single time. So I wanted to make sure I shared that with you in case you don't have this punch. But I'm going to tell you right now, this punch is my very best friend. This is called the Tailored Tag Punch. It is going to be in the new catalog, so it's being carried over, which is a big yay in my book. But do you see this here? This is going to give me that banner tip, but do you also see how wide this is? So this means I can accommodate from a very narrow strip of paper like we're using, or something that's a lot wider. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hold this, and I'm going to go in here from the top. I'm going to leave about half an inch there. And I'm looking visually to see if that point's about the center. And then I'll just pop that out. So that'll give me my banner. I'm going to set that aside. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to a piece of Bermuda Bay cardstock. And I'm going to do a little bit more stamping here. So here's my small grid paper. Megan, I see you're busy. Thank you for all your help. And here I'm going to do a little bit of a background. Now, of course, you could use designer paper if you have that. Obviously, you can use embossing folders if you want. But I wanted to use one stamp set and just a couple ink pads and create one entire card. I think sometimes we lose the simplicity of what we can do with just one stamp set. So do you see it here? Do you see the paw print? I'm going to use that for my background. So I'm going to bring in the Bermuda Bay ink pad. The great thing about Stampin' Up! Products is the color coordination. So we have the cardstock that matches the ink pad, that coordinates with the marker, and all the accessories. Absolutely love that. There's no thought process involved. And I don't know if you know this or not. Have you ever noticed that there's different shades even of black? Some have more of a purple base, some have more of a gray base. So color coordination is a big deal, and nobody does it better than Stampin' Up! So I'm going to go ahead and open up that ink pad. And I've got that little paw print mounted here, and you can see it's photopolymer, same stamp set. I'm going to ink this up, and I'm going to start stamping a background on here. Now, you certainly can stamp randomly. I'm going to attempt to make this straight. So I'm going to hold my paper on top of my grid paper, because I see the little grid lines here to help me hold it straight. And I'm going to ink, and I'm going to stamp. And I'm going to work my way across, leaving some space between each of those paws. Now, I'm going to tell you the truth. I don't stamp straight. I don't know too many people who can do it perfectly. If you have a stamp positioner, which is our Stamparatus, you can certainly do this by moving the plate each time. But quite frankly, that's a little bit too much work for me, and I want to do this kind of quick, and I wanted to show you how easy it is. Do you also see how I'm offsetting the paw print images? I'm making sure that I don't have them perfectly lined up, so that when I'm all finished, this is going to look more like patterned paper than it is a stamped background. The other thing a lot of people don't realize about having colored ink that matches their cardstock is that you are able to get more than one hue of color from that ink pad. So I'm going to give you an example here when I get to the end so I can show you. I'm just going to fill this in. So here it is full strength, and then here it is lighter. Do you see the two tones? This is a great opportunity for you. It keeps you from buying another ink pad of a similar shade and a lighter color. It helps you expound on that purchase and allows you to use it for other purposes. So for example, you can see that that looks more like a watercolor, right? So go ahead and use it with other stamp sets by stamping off a layer of ink on your scratch paper, which is going to give you the ability to create different shades. I love that. And that's the other reason I absolutely love the Stampin Blends, because they come light and dark. So some colors are reminiscent of other shades as well. All right, you can see I've gone ahead and I'll fill that in. Let me squeeze in a couple more little paw prints down here, just so it looks like I've created a wallpaper effect, because that's really what I'm after. All right, nice and simple. And again, if you don't want to line them up, just stamp them every which way to create that patterned paper look. I like to stamp off all the excess ink on my scratch paper. That's going to keep my Stampin' Chamois or my Stampin' Scrub, which is my stamp cleaner that I get the ink off of, cleaner longer. That means a lot less trips to the sink, right? And then I'll go ahead and I'll close this up and set that aside. All right, let's move this and let's put our card together. I've got a base here of smoky slate cardstock. This measures 4 1/4 by 11. Right before you joined me, I scored it in half. And I like to use my bone folder for that nice crisp edge. I'm going to come right across there. That'll help make it lay nice and flat. Here, I've got that layer. Aren't these colors sharp together? Something different. And I'm going to bring in my snail adhesive, but I'm also going to bring in my silicone craft sheet. Now, I see some of your names, and I know a lot of you. I know some of you have this, and you are raving about it. So you can chime in and tell the others. This silicone craft sheet is probably my best friend in my paper crafting studio, simply because adhesive will not stick to it. It simply rubs right off because of the silicone surface, which means I'm going to keep my table and my surrounding areas nice and clean and sticky free. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add adhesive in the 4 corners. And the reason I like it is sometimes I'm a bit zealous here close to the edge, and then it gets all over here, and then it sticks to the front of my card, and boy, you know, I got a mess on my hands before you even know it. All right, so let's go ahead and put that here on the front of the card. I'm looking to keep a small border of that base cardstock all the way around, and I'll press that in place. Do you remember the banner that we created? Let's go ahead and adhere this as well. I'm going to put adhesive on the back side. Again, love that silicone craft sheet for that. And then I'm going to mount that here about 2/3 of the way down. I'm looking to keep this as flush as I possibly can, and I'll tack that down. And then here's our dog. So I'm going to flip him over, and I'm going to bring in my dimensionals. These are double-sided pieces of foam tape. They are already pre-cut for you. You don't have to gunk up your scissors, another thing I absolutely love. And then I'll take off that paper backing, which reveals the other sticky side. And then he is going to sit right on top of here. Let's give him a really proud place to perch. And then it needs a little bit of bling, right? Because at Lisa's Stamp Studio, I love the bling. And one of the products I've absolutely loved are these glitter enamel dots. Check out the 4 different colors here. So we've got the gorgeous grape, we've got the lipstick, the granny apple green, and of course, this is Coastal Cabana. But remember how I talked about how some of our color coordination works so well together? Check this out. I'm going to pick these up and put them on here. And these have glue dots already on the back. I find that using my hands, they stick all over the place and then they're not too sticky anymore. So I'm going to use my Take Your Pick pickup tool. Now you will not find this in either of the current publications because it's new as of the holiday catalog. Now it's being carried over into the new catalog, but I love this. This is the best $10 you can spend. This end has a putty tip, which is going to allow you to pick up these little small pieces of paper, sequins, etc. really, really easily. You don't even have to buy a refill because it comes with a refill. This just unscrews and a refill goes back inside of there. There are protector caps on both ends. Now on this side, there's a little dial mechanism. Check this out. You turn it and it slides out. There's a spatula here. Can you see how dirty that is? I use to get up underneath those dimensionals or a layer if I kind of have to shift a little bit, and that helps me move those and switch them around. And then there's a stylus tool interchangeable tip that goes in here, and this is the paper piercing tool side. This little pointy thing is going to help me lift these. So I'm going to use this to my advantage. I'm going to come up underneath there. See how the glue dot sticks right to that? I'm going to adorn that little edge right there because it's kind of naked, right? And then I'm going to come in for a smaller one here. I love the different sizes, so I've got lots of opportunities here to be creative. And then I'm going to come in, I think, more with a medium one here. Let's add another one up here. The best tip I can give for you about accessories is to look for a triangle. So you want your eye to kind of form in a triangle. That's the best place to add those small embellishments. Sequins, enamel dots, even rhinestones. Those are all just great ways for you to be able to embellish your card. But isn't this cute and super easy? This is one of those cards you can make a bunch of. The great thing too about the stamp set, there are other greetings in here so you can change up the cards however you like. Those of you who make cards for your vet, perhaps you provide cards on your visit. This is also a great way to say thank you to your vet or even provide cards for them to use in their practice. Now, I promised you other cards, and I've got those. Let me set that one aside. These cards coming up are all part of this month's card kit. All my customers will receive the pre-cut supplies to make a total of 8 cards. You're going to make 2 of this one. Do you see how I use the spots in that stamp set? Let me pull that out. Do you see them here? This is one image that fits on top of this to give us that pattern dog. I love that. Isn't that cute? And then of course you'll get the punch pieces and the cardstock for you to be able to put this together. Now I don't expect you to be able to figure this out on your own, so I include a video with step-by-step instructions. You'll stamp right along with me from home. I'm going to give you a ton of tips along the way. For those of you that like written instructions, I have got you covered as well. I'm going to send you a PDF tutorial with multiple pictures of each of the cards and step-by-step instructions and all the cutting dimensions so that you can actually even copy the layouts for other cards. Okay, and this last one is really out of the box. I wanted something different, and I wanted to use part of the greeting from that same stamp set. How many of you have a pet and they've ever had to have those terrible, what I call cone of shame, right? They've maybe had sutures, or they have, you know, an abscess or something. You've got to put that cone on them, and I just feel terrible when that's our dog. But you know what? It makes a great sorry card, and this can be for an adult. It doesn't have to be for the vet. Maybe you have a friend who's going through a tough time. Maybe you have a friend who recently had a loss. Maybe you have a friend who just needs a pick-me-up. So this would be a great card for that. So my card making kit this month includes all the pre-cut supplies, the video, the PDF tutorial, pictures for all of these cards here. Absolutely free with a qualifying order. I wanted to switch you around so I can read some of your comments on the screen as I finish talking. Now, a qualifying order is a $50 product purchase of your choice. You can buy whatever you want. If you do not want to buy the Happy Tails bundle, and maybe you want the cat one, you want the 9 lives with the cat punch, you can do that, or any product you choose whatsoever. I give you so much flexibility so that you can enjoy the card kit. So any $50 product order, really important, you have to use an exclusive kit host code. It's the only way I know you're entitled to the free pre-cut supplies. You're going to find that information over at lisasstampstudio.com under the online classes tab, card making kit. You'll find that there. In addition to that, all my customers receive an added bonus. They're going to get a private invitation to join me for a special event that's private in a closed group called Live with Lisa. There I provide numerous live demonstrations, a bundle of 8 tutorials on projects, and I give away product prize patrol, prize drawings, products. Actually, the only way you have to join us is with a $25 order, and obviously with the card making kit requiring a $50 order, you're automatically going to get your private invitation. That is held in a private Facebook group, but if you're not on Facebook, don't worry. Just let me know when you place your card making kit order, and I'll be happy to send you the video recording of that event. Of course, your name is in the product prize patrol, and I'll also include the tutorials via email for you so that you don't miss out on anything. Now, the card making kit ordering ends this Saturday. I'm looking at my calendar, which I think is the 11th. It is. It's May 11th. I promise that everything is in the mail to you no later than May 18th. It's sent first class mail to the same address that you've used for your order. So that's a little bit about this monthly online class. The cards change every single month, so check back. Next month will be entirely different using product from the brand new catalog. I think that's it. I've told you a little bit about the new catalog, and I also want to tell you that if you've enjoyed tonight's video, please do me a favor. Give it a thumbs up here on YouTube. It makes them and I both very, very happy. Like I said, I do come back and read every single comment. Share the video with your crafting friends so they can learn some tips and some card layout ideas as well. I'm going to be back with you live here on YouTube. I'm looking at my calendar once again. I'll make sure I don't get the date wrong. On Thursday, no, that's wrong. That's Monday, May 20th. At 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's going to be a special edition YouTube Live. You are not going to want to miss it. So I hope that you'll be able to join me. I am so glad that you guys came by tonight. Thanks so much for being here. Megan, thanks for all your help. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.